Here we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Welcome in. This is the Lone Gunman Podcast. This is episode 383. We're going to be talking some Tippit, hopefully. Matt is not here yet. I think he's having some difficulty getting into the studio, but hopefully he joins us shortly. So we will scafoose a little bit, if you will, before Matt gets here. Let's welcome everybody in to the show. Let's see here. South to west, gold medal. Roger with the silver. What's up, Roger? Talk about Tippit side hoe. Well, we will. Trey pulling up for the bronze again. Tiny, you didn't make it to the medal ceremony this evening, but that's okay. You're here. Sally is up in here. Toops. Yes, thank F it's Friday. You got that right, Toops. Although now it's Saturday in your neck of the woods. Paul Vines up in the house. Pete Williams up in the house. Yeah, Peter Williams.
Zendar. What is up, Zendar?
Moose Heaven up in the house. Paul Anici. Claude Nantu Dean up in the house. Get her all greased up, Claude, because we're going to get in the weeds tonight. Jack Taylor up in the house. James. What's up, James? Hello, Scott. Timothy Ryan up in the house from Philly, representing Philly. Oh, shit. Yeah. So welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. We will be talking some Tippit here. Trying to monitor and maybe should work on any browser. Sorry, folks, for the slight delay here. Okay. It's asking them to download a different browser. So hopefully Matt will be here shortly. We will be talking some Tippit. I put a link to Matt's channel, his YouTube channel, down in the description. So if you want to hear more from Matt and stay abreast of everything Matt and his research, I highly suggest you head over to his page and give him a follow. And if you're a fan of this show, make sure you ring the bell, hit the little bell. That way you get notified when there's a new show about ready to drop. Because like tonight, I had to move the time back a little bit. And I saw a bunch of people try to show up early. And although I put it in the description, some people don't open it up and read. But if you hit that bell to get notified, it will remind you what time we go live or we're going live. Welcome in, Jolene. Better late than never. We haven't started yet, so you haven't missed anything. Matt is currently downloading Chrome. So he should be in here shortly. Again, we'll be talking Tippit. He's been looking at Tippit for a very long time. And I actually met Matt in Dallas 7 years ago. And I think I was at his first ever Tippit meetup at 10th and Patton. We actually met at the conference, and it's been so long. I do remember having a beer with Matt and Tink Thompson at a table and talking some JFK, which was cool as hell. Oh, I think Matt is here. Hang on 1 second. I got you. There you are, buddy.
Hello. Hey.
Hey,
Hey.
welcome in, Matt. I was just telling everybody about when I first met you almost 7 years ago in Dallas, and we were having a beer with Tink Thompson.
That's right. That is right. That is right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then
You were. Yeah. Rob was at my first ever JD Tippit gathering, which is every year on the anniversary at the murder site. So.
Yep, that was awesome. Awesome. And you did a hell of a job. And like I said, we've been talking Tippit here on the show lately, about some things. And, there's not many Tippit experts out there, if you will. And I think you're one of the best today.
Oh. For those listening, I paid Rob $100 just to say that. So.
Yeah, it's money well spent, Matt. Money well spent. So I put a link to your YouTube channel down in the description for people to check it out.
Oh,
But
good.
not only are you a Tippit researcher, but you have a debate video series over there on your channel.
That's right. I do. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, you're right. I do.
Now, people bust my balls all the time for having lone nutters here on the show,
Yeah.
having a conversation with them, and they think I'm selling out or I'm giving them airtime they shouldn't have, and all of that nonsense. And I don't mind talking to the ones that you can actually have a conversation with. The
Sure.
ones that are just way out of left field. Like I've had Scott Maudsley on the show. I've had
Yeah. Same here.
James. I've had Fred Litwin. I mean, the list goes on and on. But what made you want to do that?
Well, the past couple years, debates have been really big on YouTube and online and on TikTok and all that. I really, for about like 5 years or something like that, it's just gotten more and more popular since everyone has access to do a show like this or just have a platform in general. And I always thought that would be interesting to have something called, maybe call it the JFK Debates Project or something like that. And that's what it's called. So yeah, I give people a platform. I say, hey, if you honestly believe that Kennedy was killed by a lone assassin, come on, I'll give you a platform. Give me your best shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's called JFK Debates, but really it's a conversation. The word debate sounds, fancier in the title.
Right.
Like,
draws a little more heat that way.
Yeah. So, but
everybody's always like, you need to have a debate on your channel. You need to get Gerald Posner on there and have a debate and all this and that. And I'm like, it's just not in my wheelhouse. Like, I don't want to argue with somebody about something that you're never going to change their mind about whatever their mindset is, unless they come to that conclusion themselves, which, funny enough, I think you told me that when you first got interested in all that stuff, you were actually a lone nutter and then converted.
Yes, I converted in 2015, yeah. So before I was a lone nutter, and yes, there is probably one Facebook group out there that you could probably look back on and get some blackmail material on me. Be like, dude, like 14 years ago is what I'm talking about. Long time ago. Long time ago.
I was deeply entrenched in some of the Facebook groups, and I remember those days. And I'm not in there very much anymore. They drive me freaking crazy nowadays. These Facebook groups, I can't, dude. It's just
yeah.
They're so cyclic, and they keep bringing the same shit up over and over and over again.
Yard work.
Yeah.
And I'm the moderator of one. I'm the creator and moderator of one.
I don't see how you.
I just people message me like, "Did you see what this person?" And I'm like, "No, I gave up reading the comments. If someone has a complaint, just hit report to admin, and I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
All complaints must be submitted in writing. Something like that.
Right.
Something like
right.
that. But yeah, but
And I
I'm
think
more
too, man. I saw you in a documentary, if I'm not mistaken.
documentary. Which one?
Oh, what is the dude's name? Was it
Huh?
Willie O'Halloran's?
Oh, Will O'Halloran. Yes. We have
Yeah.
a documentary on YouTube. Yes, 2-hour video. It's called "Solving the JFK Medical Evidence," or rather, our attempt to solve it. So in the year 2023. So
Yeah, that's another quagmire altogether, right?
I first got into this with the medical evidence, and then got into it to the J.D. Tippit murder. So yeah. Medical evidence and J.D. Tippit. Those are my two wheelhouses. So, okay, ask me some questions. I'm more of a questions person. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, like I said, we recently did a show, and we were talking about the Glauco station incident. We were talking about
Gloco.
the Gloco station incident. Sorry, and the Andrews pullover and the top 10 record store.
Yes.
What if they never happened? Do you believe that they happened? Let me ask you that first. Do you believe that all three incidents happened and are truthful?
Well, all we can say is this person said this and this person said this. I mean, how are we going to measure an objective truth based on someone's story that came out in 1981 and 1990? I mean, but that goes for anything that doesn't come out in 64, in 63, 64. So all I say is this person says this and this person says this. So when people try to like battle with me, be like, well, how could you believe it? And I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying this is what they reported. And they're like, oh. Yeah, I'm not taking a position. I'm just saying, hey, this is what this person said, and this is what this person said. I mean, that's all. That's all anyone can do, really. I mean,
Yeah, true. Because I think it was the next week on the members only show, which you probably didn't see. I actually came across a document from 1964, February of 64. And it was the FBI interviewing J.B. Shorty Lewis,
mm-hmm,
who worked at the Gloco station.
mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's the only document that I've ever found concerning this.
Yes.
But what it said was absolutely nothing about Tippit. Nothing.
Yeah.
All he had to tell him was, hey, Jack Ruby used to stop here and get gas every once in a while. And George Senator still does from time to time. And we get a lot of tourists here wanting to know where that school book depository is. And you can see it right across the river there. But he never mentions Tippit being at its station.
Yeah. So yeah, but it's him plus 4 other people. So it's and this also goes to the whole problem with officials not asking the right questions, or you have to. You see, that's the whole thing. You have to say, when you interview these witnesses, a lot of information was not extracted in 63, 64. And then when they're interviewed later, it's like, is there anything else? Sort of like with Butch Burroughs, it's like they asked him, did you see Oswald come in the Texas theater? And he said no. And that is true. But had they followed up, did you ever see him that day? He would have said, oh, yeah, I saw him a little later and I sold him popcorn and everything. So it's very important that the right questions are asked and that we double and triple check everything. So,
well, I can understand the Volklins because they're just driving by when they happen to see who they say is Tippit sitting in a police car, right? Now, how they know it's Tippit in a police car as they're driving by, I don't know. Maybe because I don't know the distance from where they were at to the Gloco station. It seemed to me like they were on a expressway or freeway, maybe something.
Yeah.
By.
Yeah. This, yeah. So long story short, for those who didn't watch last week's, um, a- shortly after the assassination, Officer Tippit was sitting in his patrol car at the end of the Houston Street Viaduct at the Gloco gas station, and 5 witnesses who knew him saw him as if he was just sitting there watching the cars go by, and then he took off at a high rate of speed. And based on just that, people have taken the leap to, well, maybe he was waiting for Oswald to come on the bus or the cab. And I can't say whether that's true. I don't think anyone can, but that just goes to show how people take these leaps into things. It's sort of like the bus that Oswald got off on. A few minutes later, it was held up. It was held up by police for like an hour. And people say, "Oh, that's the police swarming the bus. They were trying to look for Oswald." Sylvia Meagher, 1966, she just threw out the question, well, maybe they were looking for Oswald. And then John Armstrong in 2003, he says maybe they were out to kill Oswald. So you see how over time these things tend to get a little stretched. So all we can say is this happened and this happened. I don't think we can never know if this happened because they were looking for him and because of this. Again, as I keep saying, all we can say is this person saw this and this people saw that. So
Yeah,
it's
like I said in the show, I don't know if it even means anything. Even if we can just take those 3 incidences and throw them to the side as not, just take them out of the equation altogether. Does it even matter if we really knew what Tippit was doing anyway in that time span?
yeah,
Because
exactly.
he was. Well, describe that area where he was killed on was it 10th Street? Because there was a lot of like Oaks or Oak
Yeah,
Cliff,
so
like young thugs that lived around there, including
so
Markham's son. And
yeah, so Officer Tippit was assigned to District 78 that morning. That morning he was in District 79, and that afternoon he was in District 87 and 88. And during the assassination, he was on the edge of District 78, and then after the assassination, he was racing around districts. I forgot the 2 districts, but I'll have to defer to researcher Bill Drinas because he knows those districts off the back of his hand. And but Officer Tippit was murdered in District number 91. So
gotcha.
there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff here to remember. Lots of names and numbers and
Yeah.
streets, and this just goes on forever. I mean, so
It-
but right out of the gate, no, I don't think he was involved in the plot. But I do have to say, no, what the hell was he doing that day? Because um, you know, um, what was your question again? You said it was
where-
to describe
that area where he was at. I think it was one of the it might have not been one of the Davis sisters, but it might have been. Thought that he lived next door or a couple doors down because she had seen his car there so often.
No, that's kind of been hyperinflated a little bit. One of the eyewitnesses to the aftermath of the shooting, Virginia Davis, she said, "I just used to see him there every day," and that's see him who every day. See Tippit, see David Bellin, who was taking her deposition, never asked the question. This again goes to them not asking the right question. It could people think that she was talking about J.D. Tippit. Dale Myers in 1996 or 97 asked her and asked her about that. Were police already there, or were police already there? And it seems like what she was talking about was police were already had already been there that morning, because that morning there had been a car accident at 10th and Patton. If you notice the crime scene photos, the stop sign is knocked down. That's because there was an accident that morning.
Dog died, right?
So, a dog died, and this was mentioned way back in 1964 in Mrs. Clemens's interview with Shirley Martin. She said, "Yeah, there was a crash here that morning, and they just pulled the car away, and a dog had died. So this goes so that's not some new thing. This is Mrs. Clemens mentioned that story, 62 years ago. So yeah, but basically, 10th and Patton, Tippit is. Do you want me to lay it?
Well, I was going to ask you, did he have like a? Because I know the HSCA interviewed Johnny Maxey Witherspoon, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing I hear all the time. Well, didn't he have a girlfriend right in that house that he parked right in front
Yeah.
of that he was killed at? No, she actually lived like 30. I put the exact number on the live stream for the show last week, but she lived like 30 blocks away or something like that. So
Did
she
her
did
mother
not.
live close by or something?
Did who?
Her mother was, or a relative?
Yeah, her mother also knew JD Tippit, as a matter of fact. Um, I don't recall off the top of my head where her mother lived, but I can find that out
See, I was
tomorrow
thinking
if I wanted to.
for some reason it was up in my brain that it was either her or her mother were living right there on 10th Street somewhere, but I could be wrong. I got so much jumbled information in my head, you know how it is.
Yeah.
Do you think it's true that she had JD Tippit's child in 1962?
Well, that's
That's the rumor.
that could be a red herring. That could just be um, according to JD Tippit's family, and according he had a vasectomy. So apparently he was shooting blanks.
Yeah.
So, but initially, Johnny, the mistress, thought that it was his kid. So and she also said later in life, "Oh, it can't be his kid because he had a vasectomy." But if she knew he had a vasectomy, then why would she assume that it was his kid? So was there kind of a bit of a cover story later to cover that up? I have no idea. But her her jealous ex-husband, who has also been thought of as a possible suspect in all this, he who's still alive, by the way. He's still alive. He's 96 years old.
Wow.
A guy named Thompson, and he was very adamant. He told researcher Larry Harris and Ken Holmes Jr. He said, "Yeah, that she, the daughter, Susan, was J.D. Tippit's daughter." I mean, he openly admitted it. He never denied it. So,
Yeah, because there was like two separate things with her. It was like, I know she was pregnant in 1963, but she said that they had broken up in like June of 63.
well, that's the thing. The husband, the jealous husband, told a completely different story to Larry Harris and Ken Holmes Jr. They were, and by the way, Larry Harris was the world's leading authority on the Tippit Expert. He died the year I was born. Actually, he and Ken Holmes Jr. They went to interview the husband in the 1970s, and they approached him, and they said, and he was like, "So you think I did it? Wait." And they were like, "Well, did you?" And he said, "Okay, sit down. I'll tell you what happened." And he just told, and for like 2 hours, he just enthralled them with this, I'm sorry, but bizarre love triangle that actually he and his wife, Tippit's mistress, did not get back together until uh, the next day after the assassination. Not that they had gotten back together in the summer of '63, but after the assassination. She came to him like that evening, upset and everything, and said, crying, and said she was pregnant by Tippit, and then they raised the child as if it were their own. So that's his story. But her story is, no, he had a vasectomy, even though she kind of slipped and initially said, "I thought that it was Tippit's when I first learned that I was pregnant." So and then she really downplayed her relationship with JD Tippit. So Harry Livingstone asked her later on in the 1990s, so you knew he was interviewing her for something else while he was investigating Oak Cliff, but he said, so you knew Officer Tippit, right? She said, oh, for a little while. Knew him for a little while. It's like they had a sexual relationship for 2 years, for years. That's what it says in the HC report. Like, oh, I knew him a little bit. And people say, well, and other people have tried to downplay it. Well, he was more like a big brother to her. It's like, yeah, big brother who you're having sex with. So it's like, it's a very sticky situation. Some people think it's a red herring. Some people think, hey, maybe we're onto something here. But
I don't know, because the accusations get crazy with Tippit. From he was on the grassy knoll shooting.
I don't think so. No.
He was supposed to get Oswald to the Redbird Airport, or he was supposed to kill Oswald, or this is one of those things I don't think we'll ever know the actual truth of. But let's talk a little bit about the witnesses, because there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And it seems that they all saw something completely different than the other person.
No, that's what everyone says.
Yeah.
That's what everyone says. That's what I used to think. But about a year ago, I realized, you know what? All these witnesses are telling us the same story, except for like three. We have Mrs. Clemens, Frank Wright, and Jack Tatum. They're what I call the other three witnesses. We're not sure what to do with them, but all the other witnesses pretty much tell us the same story. A man on the sidewalk shot a police officer, J.D. Tippit, by his patrol car, ran away around the corner, and fled. So
some identify him as Oswald, some didn't, right?
Well, it depends on what you mean by identifying. Like,
well, we know the lineup was rigged.
Pick him out of the lineup. Well, yeah, I can concede that there's only 4 witnesses who can seemingly be used as credible to identifying Lee Oswald as the supposed kill, as allegedly the killer. So, yeah.
Well, for being so close and going to 10th and Patton so often, I'm sure in your brain when you go there, you can figure, okay, Helen Markham was standing here, Scott was sitting here, Benavides was over there. Who was the closest one actually who probably had the best vantage point for this thing if they were paying attention? We know Scoggins was eating his lunch. We know Markham was trying to cross the street to get to the bus stop. I don't know what the hell Benavides was doing.
It would be Domingo Benavides who would be the closest one. He was only 15 feet away in his pickup truck, almost parallel with Tippit's car. He got to about right here, and the shots ran off, and he pulled his pickup truck into the curb, and he dove to the floor of his truck and hid, and then so he was only 15 feet away from the actual murder when it happened. And then he peeped up over the steering wheel and got a good look at the killer as he fled the scene. And he gave the most detailed and most exquisite description of the Tippit killer, which does not match Oswald in any way.
And that's a problem.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I can give you the description.
Yeah, what did he say? Yeah.
So he described the killer this way in his testimony. About 5'11", had a complexion a little bit darker than average, a little bit ruddier than mine. Now, he's Mexican-American, so he said ruddier than mine, so that's important.
Cubanish. Yeah.
Yeah, he had dark hair that was a little bit curly, and he looked like he needed a haircut for about 2 weeks with the hairline that sort of went square instead of tapered off in the back. And that's key because Domingo Benavides was a barber. And we have photos of Oswald that night, and his hair, he doesn't have that kind of a hairline. So yeah, everything in this description that he gave does not match Oswald. So, I mean, that's the closest. And by the way, that was volume 6, pages 450 to 451 of his Warren Commission testimony, and he could not identify Oswald as the killer, as everyone knows. He could not identify
Until his brother got shot in the head, right?
No, that's what a lot of people think. So what happened was November 22nd happens. His brother's killed, and then he and then he testifies that he can't identify Oswald, and then later on he changes his story in 1967 after some shenanigans happens.
Gotcha.
So that's actually a misnomer that his brother was killed. That he changed his story after his brother was killed, but actually he gave his testimony after his brother was killed. So that's there's a lot of misnomers about that.
So, have you looked at all very much into the Oak Cliff gang or whatever? Markham's son, Jimmy Burt, and these other young kids that were around, wreaking havoc in Oak Cliff back then. Because I think Markham's son, didn't she say, "Oh, I knew Oswald. We called him Ozzy and this and that."
No, that was actually her son.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know about this, which is very striking. Earlier that month, Helen Markham, who became the star Tippit witness for the Warren Commission, her son was approached by Oswald, or a guy impersonating Oswald. He called himself Ozzy, and he asked him if he wanted to help him kill the president. and that was, so we're not sure what to do with that information, but that is documented as one of the many Oswald sightings of all the suspicious things that Oswald Dubbo was supposedly doing that month. That's just one of many things that's in the Warren Commission documents, files. That was known to them, but it's not in the 26 volumes or in the Warren Report or anything like that. It never gets mentioned. Never. So.
Yeah, I see these things all over the place, and I'm just wondering, if it was like because he was in trouble with the law a lot, and I'm just wondering if he said, "Well, I'm going to make some shit up and see if they'll let me off of this charge or whatever." Tell him this fantastical story and see what happens. But who knows?
And the source for that is CD. That's a Warren Commission document. Look how far they buried this deep. Warren Commission document 1,518, pages 73 through 78. Wow. So if someone in 1964-65 wanted to figure this out, they would have to go to the National Archives, open up Warren Commission file 1,518, and eventually on pages 73, then they might find this thing. But now it's easier. It's online. We have the great Mary Farrell website, and you can search for stuff. But yeah, he was asked by Ozzy if he would like to help him kill JFK during his upcoming visit to Dallas, and that was November 7th.
Let me ask you about the shots on Tippit.
Okay,
I haven't, just from looking, and I was barely looking, but I was paying attention while I'm looking. I don't think I remember one witness who said that there was 4 shots.
One did. Only one did.
Only one out of all of them.
Yeah. I've one. This is the. I'm just going to say it up front. I don't consider eyewitness testimony to be reliable in this case, because in this case, it's just really, really bad. They tell the same story, but I'll just hear. So I'm going to try to say all this in one breath. 3 people heard 2 shots. 2 people heard 2 or 3 shots. 5 people heard 3 shots. 2 people heard 3 or 4 shots. 1 person heard 4 shots. 1 person heard 4 or 5 shots. 1 person heard 5 shots. 1 person heard 6 shots. 3 people didn't specify, and 2 people couldn't tell. So only 1 out of the 4 bullets and shells that are in evidence right now, only 1 out of 20 over 20 witnesses. Only one person got the number of shots right.
Yeah, for some reason, when I'm reading through everything, that stuck out to me. I'm like, why isn't anybody getting the shots right?
Yeah, that's the thing with the J.D. Tippit murder, is it's so different from the Kennedy assassination. There's no Zapruder film. There's no 200 witnesses. There's no, hundreds of photos taken. There's no multiple films. I mean, it's just, we don't have any of that. We just have eyewitness testimony, and it's I don't consider the testimony in the Tippit case to be strong or reliable.
Yeah, I always thought maybe it was because it was from a pistol. There's no like reloading sequence you have to go through. You could just pretty much bang, 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 and it could sound like 3, because you can shoot a lot closer together with a revolver than you can a rifle.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my personal theory, but who the hell knows? So let me ask you this about Warren Reynolds shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's connected at all with what happened to Tippit? Because I mean, it's right around the corner.
I've never, that's the one thing I hear about Warren Reynolds. He couldn't identify Oswald, and then he was shot and he survived and he changed the story. To me, the Warren Reynolds story has never really been an issue, because the full context is that Warren Reynolds gave a police affidavit to the Dallas police, which is not in the 26 volumes, as a matter of fact. Maybe because it was taken in January, I believe. But anyway, he was interviewed by the FBI, and he said that in the FBI interview quotes, the FBI interview claims, because we don't have his actual words here, we just have what they wrote up. The FBI wrote up that Warren Reynolds is of the opinion that it's Oswald, but he can't positively identify him. And then, like, literally 48 hours later, he's closing up the shop, and someone jumps up out of the shadows with a rifle and shoots him in the head. It hit him in the glasses. That exited like back here, and he miraculously survived. And then he changed his story. And then later on, a couple researchers tracked him down and asked him, hey, just tell us what really happened. No bullshit. Just, it's many years later. Just tell us what really happened. And he said, the honest truth is that I was too far away to identify the guy, but because I was shot, I changed my story. So as soon as I learned that, I was thinking, okay, this whole Warren Reynolds shooting is not really suspicious anymore. Is not as not as mysterious as it sounds. It's mysterious as to who shot him and to why, but in regards to, him, they shot him because they wanted him to change his story. It's like, well, why would they want him to change his story when they already have other witnesses who, picked him out of a lineup and, identified a photo of him Oswald months later. So it's like, you don't have to rely on a single witness when they already had other witnesses. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's just, that whole Warren Reynolds thing always threw me off, especially when you find out that he's talking to General Walker as well. He's obviously
he has a strange relationship with General Walker. That's never really been probed too much, or
Yeah, it hadn't been sussed out very much. And this
Warren Reynolds is still alive, by the way.
Is he?
Yeah, he's still alive. He doesn't talk about it with anyone, though.
Wow.
There's some crazy jackass on YouTube who went to his shop and was like, I'm going to go interview Warren Reynolds. And I'm like, who is this guy? This guy sounds like he's nuts. He's like, yeah, hey, is Warren here? Like, no, he's not here today. Oh, okay. I mean, some people are just crazy. I mean, the amount of craziness that we see just because everyone can be platformed these days, So someone I'm gonna go see Warren Reynolds. Didn't work though, and he wouldn't have talked to him anyway. So
yeah, I showed that video from what was that guy's name? Grandpa Hickory that you had on your channel.
That's what I sent you. Remember that?
Yeah. And because he was talking about the top 10 records, and I was like, what is this guy talking about?
He was like, I saw JD Tippit in the top 10 record store. I'm like, maybe. All I can say, again, like I said before, all I can say is this is what he claims. Do we know for a fact that, 63 years later that that's true? I don't know.
Well, he never said he saw him on the 22nd.
Well, yeah, but he said he saw him frequently use that telephone.
Who knows? And then I clicked on his channel, and what's the first thing that pops up? He's a UFO buff. There you go.
Well, it could go either way. So yeah, all I can say is Grandpa Hickory, over 60 years later, claims that he saw JD Tippit use the phone in the top 10 record store frequently back in the 60s. That's all we can say. That's all we can say. You can take it, do whatever you want with it.
Yep. I was thought the timing of that, and that record store was struggling in the 80s because cassettes had just come out.
It was published in. I remember you said that on last week's show. You said that maybe that they made it up or something like that. Okay, for those who are listening, just before JD Tippit was killed, he ran into the top 10 record store, went behind the counter, picked up the phone, was very impatient, apparently did not reach anyone, slammed the phone down, went back in his car, and sped away, and he was killed like literally minutes later. I'm just laying it out for the audience who's listening right now, and no one, that's a little mystery that popped up in that was first came about in Penn Jones's newsletter, The Continuing Inquiry, in 1981, and Gary Mack broke that story. So could the owners have just made that up for to save their dying record store? I mean, it's not like they went to USA Today or to Dallas Morning News, or it's just a little newsletter that Penn Jones did. So I think that shows honesty. That leans towards honesty. They're just,
Yeah, I did find that the one document from this guy. It was like an FBI tip, like a week after the assassination, who said that there was a rumor that Oswald had been in the top 10 and bought a ticket to the Dick Clark show at 7:30 a.m. and then came back in the afternoon to try to buy another one or something when JD Tippit was in the store.
Yeah.
And that was the extent of it. And the FBI was like, do not pursue lead. Oswald, it couldn't have been Oswald. He was, on his way to work or whatever.
Yep.
He kind of dismissed it, but it didn't come from anybody at the top 10. It just came from somebody who didn't want to be identified, William Johnston or somebody. I don't even know who he is, but he said in the thing, it's just a rumor. But that's the only thing that I could find, early.
Yeah, so, and that was at supposedly at 7:30 a.m. that morning. Oswald and Bill Wesley Frazier were on their way to work at the depository. And yet again, we have Oswald or someone looking like him bought show tickets as you said, at the top 10 record store in Irving. And he returned later and bought another ticket. And supposedly JD Tippit was also in that store. So if that's true, and if the other story is true, then there's a lot going on at Top 10 Records. If all this is true, if all this is true,
the only thing that to me that would support that theory.
And by the way, the citation for this, for what I just said, was FBI Riff 124-10087-10197. Just for those who think that I'm making stuff up. Everything I say has citations. I'm not trying to sell something. I'm not some.
I know. Every time I hear all kinds of shit all the time. Well, not so much anymore, but used to, because I get on here and talk about documents and everything. I wouldn't tell the RIF number or anything like that. And Joseph Bax, he would always message me, what's the RIF number on that document? I'm like, I don't know, dude. I already threw it in the trash. Yeah.
Are we supposed to be answering questions here in the chat? I see. Or is that for later? Is that later?
We can. I just it's hard for me when I'm here by myself to kind of pay attention to the chat and the guests, so I'm just ignoring them. But
Someone asked how you pronounce my last name. Douthit. Douthit. It's German. Yeah. Okay, next question. Next question.
So as long as you've been looking at this deal,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure your opinions have changed over time, the more you learn, the more you find out, maybe it changes. But like I said at the beginning of the show, dude, you're one of the most knowledgeable people about the Tippit shooting. What is your theory about what the hell happened there?
Well, I'm not convinced that it was Oswald. I have not said, and I won't say Oswald did not do it, because that puts a burden of proof on me that I can't possibly meet. All I say is I don't think the official story has met its burden of proof, and I can demonstrate that, and I feel I have. If you know,
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about timing. I know. What last summer you made the trek from the rooming house to the site, right?
yeah.
And you timed yourself. So, what did the Warren Commission say about the timing, and what did you find out independently trying to do it on your own?
How much time you got? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Not as
I
much
can
time as you
pull.
need.
I have multiple time tests all on my phone. Which one do you want? Let me see. Uh, let's see. Let's
Did,
see.
did,
I mean,
did,
I can pull this up.
did you do from where the cab supposedly dropped Oswald off?
Yeah. So,
How long? I'm curious. How long did that take you? Just from where the cab dropped him off to the rooming house?
cab dropping off to 7 minutes 14 seconds. But if you absolutely power walk it, you can get there in 5 minutes and 55 seconds or something like that. It all depends. Are we walking like normal, or are we running, or are we jogging, or are we walking with the purpose? It really
I
the
would say
times change, but ultimately every time I do it, it doesn't work. So
yeah. See, I would say we're walking with a purpose, but something funny struck out to me, and I believe we talked about it on Quick Hits with me and Doug this past weekend. But we were talking about Earlene Roberts and all that stuff, and came across. No, I know what it was. I have Darwin Payne's book, Behind the Scenes, right? Have you ever read that book?
no, I have tons and tons of books
Yeah,
on my to-do list. So
I think he's a Dallas Morning Herald reporter. And anyway, he went to the rooming house that afternoon, like 15 minutes after the police had left.
yep.
And AC Johnson was there, his wife was there, and of course Earlene Roberts was there, and several other roomers, right?
Yes.
And he goes in detail in the book about how how he was talking to him, and there were other reporters there, and they were kind of bouncing around between people trying to get different stories from different people. And I think he said at one point that he had been talking to Earlene, and he said, I think she's starting to like me because I'm asking her interesting questions, right?
Yeah.
And she volunteered to him this story that I haven't seen anywhere else. And she said, I've got a secret. And Darwin's like, yeah, what's that? And she's like, what's about Oswald? Whenever he would get up and go walk to the bathroom, his butt kind of twisted. So we called him the butt twister behind his back. Like, there goes the butt twister. And like Dean Andrews said, he had a little swish when he walked, right?
Yeah.
So I can see
See,
Oswald walking with a purpose about that speed. You know what I mean? Like, just
Yeah. So yeah, I give tours, and we start from the depository and we end all the way at the arrest at the Texas Theater, and we time it every single time. And to this day, there's not been a single time that I've done it, and I've done it dozens of times now, where it works in favor of what the Warren Commission claimed, because the Warren Commission timetable is very strict on he left at this time and walked for this amount of time and got on this bus at this time and this cab at this time, and it has to work up. But once you actually do it, even if you walk a purpose, it still uh, does not work. It
Because I
still
mean,
does not work.
it would be hard to get from the 6th floor, supposedly, where he's seen again on the 2nd floor, then to a bus, then to a cab, then dropped off, 5 blocks down the road, then to walk back to the rooming house. So from the 6th floor window to the rooming house in a half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
What time did it take you to get from the 6th floor to the rooming house?
My absolute fastest.
Yeah.
I'll pull it up right here. My absolute fastest, like cutting corners in it, like I mean, shaving off some time. Arrive at the rooming house at 12:58, 53. But that's if we cut if we try to make it work. If we do it honestly, it would be around like 1 o'clock on the dot. But again, that's walking very fast. But on average, when I do my tours, we arrive between like 103 or 104. So again, it really depends on how fast you're walking it, how fast or how slow you're walking it. But people are like, oh, you can arrive at 12:58. No, yes, but no, because that's assuming that everything after that is correct. Like, oh, he's in his room for a minute or two. No, he's not in his room for like a minute or 2 minutes, or he stands outside for like, oh, maybe he stands out. No. Once you analyze it and put in honestly what Erling Roberts said, then it just does not work. Plus the direction he would have had to have been taken, plus everything else, it just does not work. And that's why I implore people to come do it. Come do the route with me, and you'll see for yourself it doesn't work. I did it with my counterpart, Mr. Bill Brown. You know him?
Yeah.
And he had never done from the depository to the neighborhood before. He'd only done from the rooming house to the crime scene. So I was like, let's do this together, and we have Oswald.
I mean, is that run and walk?
Killing Tippit at like 118, and that's way too late to commit the murder because Dale Myers fixed at the time of the shooting at 114. I think it was like at around like 111 or 112. Vincent Bugliosi thought that the shooting was at 112, but cutting as many corners as we can,
speeding
and going as fast as we can, and even cheating a little bit, stopping at red lights and everything, which and shortening stuff from Erling Roberts said 4 or 5 minutes, 3, cutting that down to 1 minute, and Mrs. Erling, and then she said several minutes, cutting that down to 1 minute. So when we cheat, we get there at 118.
Right.
And that's still way too late. So it still does not work. No matter how you slice or dice this whole timeline, it does not work. So, and I would implore people to go watch Jess Cannell's channel where I demonstrate that in a couple of videos. So
yeah, and I don't.
So it's 118 if you're hauling ass and cheat, but if you're honest. If you're honest and do it honestly, the average time that we have Tippit killing Oswald, or that we have Oswald killing Tippit, is like 122, or like, which is it really does not work. And I spent really a full year, investigating how did the Warren Commission jerry rig this to make it work. How did Dale Myers jerry rig it to make it work? And I figured it out second by second exactly how they made it work, and they really did jerry rig it, and I've proven that. I feel.
Yeah. Because, when you're talking about like William Wally, the cab driver, he never said
Really.
Oswald seemed in a hurry. He never said Oswald was like, step on it, man. Hurry up. Let's go. Can you get me there any faster? Nothing like that. It was, the guy didn't talk, type
Yeah,
of.
and when I did my time with the time test on the Whaley cab drive, Bill Brown insisted that I stop the clock. Okay, he was trying to cheat. He stopped the clocks at every red light and every stop sign, and again cheating. The cab drive was like just under 5 minutes, like 4 minutes and 50, something like that. And I knew that wasn't right because my average drive is like 7.5 minutes and what did Whaley himself say? It was between 6.5 and 8 minutes.
There you
So
go.
there you go. You see, if you just listen to the actual witness and drive it as it is, you'll do what the witnesses did, what he did that day, and it all adds up. So
Yeah, I'm sure there was like
you can cheat. You can cheat to try and make it work.
Yeah.
But at least be honest about it.
Yeah, because I can see the problem with the Warren Commission when all this was coming up and they're trying to figure out if Oswald could have done all this stuff based on every incident that Oswald was supposedly involved in, getting stuck on the bus, taking a cab, getting dropped off over here, walking here, getting stopped on the second floor, running across the sixth floor. And, they have to take into consideration all the different testimony of these witnesses and what they think the timing was. And then, like you said, they kind of reverse engineered it to make it work.
Yes, and I can demonstrate like minute by minute exactly how the Warren Report and Myers rigged it, shortened it to make it work. I've documented that.
Hell yeah.
Minute by minute.
Yeah, I mean,
if you want to look that up, if I can send that, if you want me to send that to you, I can.
Sure. Yeah. Now, if Oswald would have been going to the Texas Theater all along, like that was the plan, would he have taken the route that he took, or would he have just walked down Zang's or Beckley?
Yeah, I think the simple explanation is that Oswald simply walked to the Texas Theater, and that would be and adding that time up to when he's last seen outside in front of the house at the curb, that would place him at the Texas Theater exactly when Johnny Brewer saw him at like 12:40. 1:40. Sorry.
We were talking like again on Quick Hits, and I brought up Earlene Roberts again. And can we trust what she says? Because she says some crazy shit in her Secret Service interview from December 5th, I think it was. She said that the DPD showed up at her house at 1:30.
Yeah.
Which is a problem because Oswald's not even arrested yet. The DPD had no idea where he was staying at that point.
Some people try to use that as a wedge to try and discredit her, and that's not a good argument to try and make that. Ooh, maybe she's wrong about. That's what people try to do, is that they try to make excuses. Well, they got this wrong. Maybe they're wrong on everything else. No, that's not how this works.
And she's blind in one eye and can't see out of the other ear, right? And
yeah,
she saw a cop car that couldn't have been there, right? 207. It was supposed to be at the depository, right?
Well, she gave like 4 different numbers for the car.
4 different numbers?
3 or 4, yeah.
Oh, all I've seen is 207.
No, she gave like 3 or 4 different numbers for the car.
Damn.
One of them was not in service anymore, so some people think that the conspirators were using a cop car that was not in service anymore. That's a theory.
Yeah, or if it was 207, Westbrook hijacked it from the school depository, him and Croy.
Yeah.
Because
I'm not.
wasn't there a second police car seen near the Tippit murder scene in like an alley or something?
Yeah, that's a whole other. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. So it turns out, Doris Holland, her story was first published in 2004, 2004 in Harry Livingstone's book, The Radical Right. And supposedly she was living across the street from where Tippit was killed, and she heard the shot. She looked out. She saw the Tippit aftermath and saw another police car in the driveway in between the two houses. But it turns out that can't be true because she did not live there at that time. She lived there earlier that year. I interviewed her son, Lad Holland, and he said that actually it was he who came upon the murder scene a few minutes afterwards, and he saw Tippit dead in the street in the crowd of people around him and everything. And then he said that he went and put his books away on Patton, where they were living at that time. So they were living around the corner on Patton, very close, not across the street as they had been earlier that year. And he said he put his books away and he watched from afar, for a couple hours, watching the action happen. Cop cars swarming, investigation. So he was just sitting there, you know, watching the action. And I realized, wait a minute, if that proves that he was living on that they were living on Patton at that time, not across the street. Because if he had lived across the street, he would be 10 feet away, not watching from his front yard around the corner from afar.
Yeah,
100 something feet away. And they would be like right across the street, like 10 feet in front of him.
more around the corner.
Yeah. So I realized that they were living on Patton at that time, and which means that if she was home at the time, Doris Holland, she was a waitress and if she was living at Patton Street, if at best she could not have seen Tippit's patrol car. She could not have seen Tippit's body. At best, she could have seen the killer run around the corner, or at best, she could have seen the killer run around the corner and run past her. So that's at best. That's if the story is true. That's what she could have seen. But there are tons of details that she says, or that she claims to have said before she died in the year 2000 that don't match, that can't be true if she was living at Patton Street. And as for this, and she could not have seen the a second alleged cop car in the driveway, and there were also structures in between those two houses, as you can see from aerial photographs. At best, she hears the shot, she looks out, she sees the killer run around the corner, run down Patton, and in the alley, not in the driveway in between the two houses. She could see into the alleyway, not in between the houses. At best, if there was a cop car there, she could have seen it pull out and drive away or whatever. So there are elements of the story that could be true if it were true. But there's a ton of other stuff that she's reported to have said that can't possibly be true, because she couldn't have seen the patrol car, as I said. She couldn't have seen Tippit's body. She couldn't have seen a second guy who she's quoted as saying, walking up to Tippit's body, inspecting his head, and waving to some other guy. So all that stuff can't be true. She would have to be in the house across the street, which she wasn't living at that time. So I asked Lad, her son, I said, is there any way that she could have seen all that? And he said, the only thing I can conceive of is that she still had friends in that house, in the old house, that she would go and visit. So if she was over there visiting them and then she heard the shots and looked out the window, then she could have seen what what was written up about her in Livingstone's book. But according to the people who interviewed her, she was, at home taking a nap and, smoking a cigarette and everything. And she was in her bed in pajama bottoms. So not visiting people.
Right.
So at best, as I said, all we could say is that she might have seen the killer running away. And if there was another cop car in the alley, she might have seen it pull out and pull away. But it's impossible to know what the truth is in this situation. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but
Oh, no.
it's a long-winded story.
Yeah. All right. I got a question for you
I see questions here.
as a Dallas site. Well, this is from me. It's not from the chat.
Oh, I thought we were okay. That's fine.
In a second. But my question is, and I think this is the right map. Yeah. Let me pull up this map here, Matt, and have you take a look at it. Can you see it on the screen?
Yes, so that's a modern map, though.
That is a modern map, yes. And let's see, where are we at here? Okay, where Beckley is.
Oh, it's hard to see. Look, it's small. It's a small map. Let's see.
Well, I'm sorry, North Zangs. If we're following North Zangs, it's like right up the middle of the map. It's the road. It's kind of like right.
Let me zoom in. Get back. Okay, yeah.
So we get down by the rooming house and it's kind of at the intersection of Zangs and Beckley.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I zoomed in. I can see it more. Yeah.
Okay, across the way there is El Dorado Avenue. Okay.
Yes.
And then off of El Dorado, it'll take you down to Elsbeth Street on the right there, where Oswald once lived. How do you pronounce that street? Neches.
You talking about Nietzsche's?
Nietzsche's or Natchez?
Nietzsche's. That's how I've always heard it.
That's how you've always heard it, Nietzsche's?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering what people called it then, because
Nietzsche's.
I had a crazy theory, right, about this.
Yes.
You know how Oswald was a horrible speller, and
yeah,
if he's phonetically spelling something that he heard, right? Could this be 601 West Nietzsche Street?
Huh. That's the paper bag thing, right?
Yeah.
Some people think that's how they got his fingerprints.
Yeah.
You have to go a long way to make that argument, but hey, if you want to,
it's a stretch. Believe me.
If you want to mail something just to have them open it and be like, "What the hell is this?"
Well, here's what's interesting.
Just to get their fingerprints, you're taking a risk.
Well, I went on Google Maps and I looked up 601 West Nietzsche Street, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it took me here to Woodlawn Avenue, which is on the corner of Woodlawn and Nietzsche's, which is running to the side of it here. Where all that shit is on the curb over there.
Yeah.
All right. So I drove around the corner virtually in my Google car and got to the other side, right?
Uh-huh.
And this is what I see on the other side of the greenhouse.
Yep.
It looks to me like this little porch. There used to be a door here at one time, and it was, just closed in. So this little side entrance to this house would have been 601 West Nietzsche Street. Because, back in the 60s, they used to divvy these houses up into 4 or 5 different residences. And they'd have all these different entrances on them.
Yep.
And I was like, would that be a good spot, for Oswald to live? Or somebody else who was, off the grid or whatever. Again, it's addressed to him in Dallas at this address.
Yeah.
I don't know. Trust me, it's a stretch.
Yeah, it is.
I'm thinking out of the box, Matt. I'm trying to get
it's hard to come to conclusions based on only the things that we know. But what people don't realize is that you don't have to reach a conclusion for everything. for anything. You just don't. People try to force a conclusion. Well, just going based off of what we do have, most likely this happened. It's like, no, people don't get that. You don't have to reach a conclusion. Sometimes there's insufficient evidence to draw a conclusion for such and such.
Yeah. But it's fun to
It's,
try, right?
it's fun to try, but I try to stick. I try to
Yeah.
stick with I try to stick with what the evidence tells me. So, and it's hard. It's really, really hard.
So anybody in Dallas, try to run this lead down, go to the city hall or whatever and pull up the records for this property and see if it was ever a 601 West Nietzsche Street and who was living there, who owned it, type of thing. You know, it's a rabbit hole.
It's a bunny trail. It's a bunny trail, yeah. Let's see.
All right. David says Markham saw the second police car also, and so did one of the Davis sisters, apparently.
Citation for Helen Markham. Citation needed.
Yeah, David, come correct. What are you doing?
As the Davis sisters, he's probably thinking about what I said earlier. How she said that the cops had already been there because there was an accident that morning. That's probably what. As far as Helen Markham seeing another cop car, he's probably thinking of Gavin McMahon's research or something like that. But none of that can be verified. Yeah, but David, if you're still in the chat, if you could give me the exact citation. Not something 60-something years later that someone claimed that a family member told them who married into the family and,
Right. South to West says the mysterious package was addressed to Nash's Street. Right. No, I get that, but there is no Nash's Street in Dallas.
Oswald was dyslexic.
In fact, there's no Nash's Street in America. The only one I found was South Africa.
Yeah, so David just answered. He said, I believe it is a tribute to a family member of Markham. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's one of the problems of
Can't trust them young thugs, David.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, you can't trust a former family member like 60-something years later. I mean, now we're just getting into hearsay and stories and things like that.
Yeah, I believe it would have been her grandson at this point, right? If I'm remembering my interview with Gavin McMahon.
And it was someone who married into the family. Wasn't really
that's
a family,
right. Yeah.
really a family member. So I'm not really interested in all that.
Yeah, it's definitely
so, and there's also something like she saw this Italian man or something. I'm like, that's nice. Okay, and I can't confirm that.
No War with Iran says whodunit suspects line up, vote or write in your favorite for who actually shot Tippit. A. Ruby, B. Crayford, C. White, or D. somebody else.
Or D. I guess the D is I don't know or something like that.
I don't know.
Well, it can't be Ruby because the suspect was described as between 18 and 25 years old. The killer of Tippit, and Ruby was in his 50s, and the killer was said to have had curly or bushy hair and a pompadour in the front, and Ruby was bald. So I have no idea why people think that it could have even been Ruby who shot Tippit.
And I don't think Ruby would have ever killed a cop. I mean, he loved cops too much. I don't think he'd ever bring himself to shoot a cop. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, so Larry Harris, who I mentioned earlier, who was the world's leading expert on the Tippit murder, he thought it was Roscoe White. So, and he's actually the person who got me into this case, even though he died when I was like 8 months old or something like that. He died the year I was born, as I said. But I learned like last year that he privately acknowledged that he thought Roscoe White killed Tippit, and that he's the reason, Larry's the reason why I'm got in this case, and he's who I look up to. And if that's who he thinks did it, I mean, I can accept it. Can I prove it? No.
Yeah, I started off the show back when I started doing it, 12 years ago or whatever, utterly convinced or at least very open to the possibility that the person that shot Tippit was Larry Crayford impersonating Oswald.
With Larry Crayford, there's just not much to go on.
Right. I
There's
mean,
just not much
I
to
was
go
always
on.
thinking, okay, he's got the jacket, right, that we can't prove was Oswald's that supposedly found. We don't even know if it was the shooting suspect's jacket. They just found his
Well,
jacket right under the
the
car.
jacket, the gray jacket that's now in evidence is what you're talking about, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can concede that that's Oswald's jacket, but it's not the white jacket that was found that was ditched by the Tippit killer and found up and held up and photographed by the police that day and announced over the police radio as white. So I think they probably just switched out the Tippit killer's white jacket for Oswald's gray jacket.
Maybe.
But can that jacket, other than Marina, can't be linked to him?
Did Marina ever say that jacket was his though?
Yes, in her testimony, yes,
Really?
something like that. Yeah, she was like, "Oh, that's Lee's." I think she said it was like Lee's old shirt, but people like, "Well, she spoke Russian, so maybe she said shirt instead of jacket." And she also said, "Yeah, I think he had it on him the night before." It's like, well, that's not possible because it would supposedly be at the rooming house. So,
Because one thing
yeah,
to bolster the theory that Oswald was being impersonated that day is, of course, the top 10 rumor. And if that was just itself by itself, that would be
yeah,
an anomaly. But we also have from that same day an Oswald sighting at the Jiffy Mart or whatever, right?
the Jiffy store, yeah,
Yeah, where he bought peanut brittle and a beer or something.
yeah. Let me read that. Yeah, yeah. Let me read that to you. So this is one of the other weird things is that at 8:30 a.m. that morning, Oswald, of course, was at work. Yet Oswald, or an Oswald lookalike, bought beer at the Jiffy store in downtown Dallas. He showed the store clerk his driver's license.
An
It
ID.
said Lee Oswald or H. Lee Oswald, according to the guy who checked his ID, and he remembers the birth year as being 1939. And he said that the Oswald returned later and bought beer and pico brittle. And he seemed nervous as he paced the aisles as he ate the candy. So that shows that either Oswald or an Oswald uh, imposter knows that something's about to happen. He knows that probably that something's going to go down. And he's nervous. He's eating the candy and he's pacing the aisles. So because something's about to happen.
Yeah, because the guy's
The president's going to get killed. So is that Oswald? Is that the real Oswald doing that because he's involved in something, or is that another Oswald impersonating him because he's also involved in something? And the citation for that is Warren Commission document 7, pages 738 to 740. That was not published in the 26 volumes.
for good reason.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, someone wrote beer and peanut brittle. It's actually pico brittle. P-E-C-O. Pico brittle.
What is pico brittle? Is that different than peanut?
Coconut.
Or
Coconut.
peanut and cocoa nut.
Yes.
Pico.
Uh,
Interesting.
yeah. Okay. Any other comments?
See, like that claim to me, because I think he did say later in the document he remembered the Oswald name. He said, "Well, that sounds like a nice Jewish name or something, right?" And that's why it's stuck in his head.
I'd have to, in fact, the citation for that on the Mary Farrell website is actually very blurred. It's suspiciously blurred for some reason. It's suspiciously blurred. But John Armstrong, he printed a good copy of that. He published a good copy of that on his CD-ROM, and I think it's on his website too. So
Yeah, Baylor.
it's a little blurred out, as is the J.D. Tippit autopsy, which is in the Warren Commission files. That's blurred out too. It's like, I can't read shit. What is this talking about? What are they doing? What are they doing? Now everything's online and it's gorgeous, but back in 1965, if someone's researching this, it's like they're not giving us an inch. Only what's in the 26 volumes.
Well, they had really crappy printers back then, apparently.
Yeah. All right. Any? I'm
Let me
just
ask you
looking.
about the second wallet then. Do you think
Uh,
that a wallet was found at the Tippit crime scene or no?
there was a wallet that turned up at the Tippit crime scene. It's on film. It's on film next to JD Tippett's pistol. There was a local news crew, and they filmed a cop, and they filmed a bunch. The cops on the scene. One of the cops has JD Tippett's pistol in one hand and a wallet in the other, and they're looking at the wallet. They're like thumbing through it, like this.
Yeah.
So there are three witnesses there: who FBI agent and two cops who said it, who later said it was an Oswald wallet. um, that's a tough one. That's a real tough one, Rob. That's a real tough one. The other option is that it could have been Ted Calloway's wallet, because Ted Calloway picked up Tippett's revolver and said, "Let's go chase," and said, "Let's go chase the son of a bitch." And then Calloway was disarmed. Give me that. Give me that. You know what I mean? And they disarmed him, and they really embarrassed him. So is it possible that they took his wallet for ID? And that's why in the officer's hand he has Tippett's pistol, which he got from Calloway. And is that possibly Calloway's wallet? It's just an idea. It's just a working theory. And Kenneth Croy said that that when he was given the pistol and the wallet, he said that they came together. So
And Croy also said it was an Oswald wallet.
he said that, and then in another interview he said, "Well, I just assumed it was an Oswald's wallet, and I never saw Oswald's name inside of there." So he was kind of contradictory on that. So yes, is it possible that a conspirator, seeing an opportunity, went to the Tippit crime scene, turned in the wallet, and said to Croy, because all Croy remembered was that some identified white male approached him and said, "Here you go." The killer threw it down, which we know did not happen because the Tippit killer did not throw any wallet down. So why is this unidentified man turning in a Oswald wallet to Kenneth Croy, saying, "Hey, the killer threw it down. Here you go. Hope this helps." And then that man disappeared. So if could that have been a conspirator going to the crime scene and turning in a wallet to frame Oswald? It could be. Could it be Ted Calloway's wallet, as I just mentioned, which came with which supposedly was with? Maybe. We have a split. It could literally go either way.
Or could it have been Larry Crayford with Oswald identification in his pocket, walking to Jack?
Supposedly in the wallet, Kenneth Croy said there were seven different identifications in the wallet, and that none of them were Oswald. And then he said, but then Agent Robert Barrett, Captain Westbrook was thumbing through it, and he looked over at FBI Agent Barrett, and he said, "Do you know what Oswald? Nope. Do you know what Heidel? No. Do you know what O.H. Lee? No." He's like, "Huh." So it's obvious that that at least 3 Oswald IDs are in the wallet, but it's just a real hodgepodge to try and make sense of it. It could be an Oswald wallet that was turned into the scene by a conspirator, or it could have been Ted Calloway's wallet, because Ted Calloway was really embarrassed that he was disarmed, because Calloway was a World War II veteran. He was at Iwo Jima, I think he was, and he was really embarrassed. They disarmed. Give me that. So did he begrudgingly give his wallet over because supposedly the Tippett's gun and the wallet came together? Could it? I don't know. And Calloway, as I said, he was embarrassed and he never mentioned that. And they were like, "Yeah, we disarmed that guy." It's like Calloway never mentioned that because he was embarrassed that he was disarmed. This tough guy got disarmed, so he never mentioned it. And Dale Myers asked him, "Was that your wallet? Could this be your wallet?" And he was like, "No, nope, it wasn't my wallet." He said, "Nope, it wasn't my wallet." And he said, "Well, when you turned in Tippett's revolver to the police, did they ask you for ID?" And he said, "Nope, I just said, here you go, thank you very much," which is bullshit because, as I said, they converged on him and they disarmed him and they embarrassed him. So could they have taken his wallet from him too? They came together, and then that's why they're on film right next to each other. Maybe. But then why would two officers and FBI agent say later in life say, "Hey, there were Oswald IDs in there"? You don't get that by an oopsie. Oops. No, maybe one person, but three people? Come on. I hope that
Yeah, we got one here that says Garrison said the Tippit killing was part of the conspiracy, but he didn't say, to my knowledge, that Tippett's assassin killed him to frame LHO, right?
Yeah, that's one of the problems. I really want to know. It's like, who did Mark Lane think shot Tippit? Who did Garrison think shot Tippit? Who did Sylvia Marr think shot Tippit? I don't, people didn't ask these questions. Like all these top researchers, who was Penn Jones's favorite suspect? Who was Harold Weisberg's favorite? I mean, it's like, we don't know.
Well, the DPD didn't give a shit either because they stopped investigating it after.
Well, they admitted that they had District Henry Waite said, "Well, we didn't investigate his case at all." And Jim Lavelle, and said, we dropped the case after 2 days, and Bill Alexander and all that stuff. I mean, they're all admitting that they didn't investigate the murder of a brother officer, and they're like, and Lavelle was like, "Yeah, I should have done what we did in normal cases, gone door knocking, gotten more witnesses," and it's like, ugh. They do that with a regular person, but not with a brother officer.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Lavelle when he was still alive?
Yes, but I was not interested in the Tippit case at that time. But he gave thousands of interviews over the years, so he said everything he's needed to say.
Yeah, and he stayed pretty consistent from what I've seen.
Yeah, he
his
did.
Story. Although I wish he would have written a book, or we could see his files, because I'm sure he had.
Well, you can. There's so many books that have his story in it, like full chapter, account. Go to read Larry Sneed's book, his oral history.
No More Silence.
No More Silence. There's a big, lengthy chapter of his interview with Lavelle. So I would go there. You can watch he gave multiple interviews with the Sixth Floor Museum. You can watch that on their website. So yeah, I don't regret not asking Lavelle questions, because he would talk with anybody, and he answered almost every question there was. So anyway,
what did you think about? Is Mark Oakes still around?
He's still around. Yeah, he's still around.
Is he still involved in looking into the case or anything?
Yes and no. He he did a filmed interview with Jim Lavelle. It's on YouTube. Have you seen it?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a couple. I like watching it. He did some good work. Him and Brownlow. Yeah.
Mark Oakes, he interviewed a lot of witnesses on videotape in the 90s, and you can buy those from him. So.
Oh, he's still peddling.
Mark Oakes, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we're going to read some more comments. Let's see. Like I said, I'm more of a question.
Said it might have been a witness's wallet that fell out while tending to Tippit. Was anybody?
I never thought of that. I never. Huh?
Was anybody tending to him? Like,
witness T.F. Bowley, when he came upon the scene, he rolled him over and inspected him for life. inspected him for signs of life. But again, we have 3 witnesses there saying that 3 different forms of Oswald's ID were in the wallet.
Yeah.
So there's a question on that, and someone turned in the wallet, as I said. So no, I don't think it could have been a witness's wallet that fell out, because the wallet was delivered to the scene. It was turned into the scene to Officer Croy, and the person who turned it in said, "Here you go." The killer threw it in the bushes. So I was thinking, well, wait a minute. The Tippit killer jumped the bushes when he ran the corner when he turned the corner onto Patton. That's what Ted Calloway saw. Ted Calloway looked down. He saw the killer jump the bushes and then run down Patton Street. So I was like, is that possible? Could it? Could Oswald really have could
I
Oswald
can't see him jumping bushes.
could Oswald? I mean, could it have jumped out of his? But no, that can't be, because yeah, just for many different reasons.
We got our deep state specialist here, Tiny Dancer. She says the FBI and the DPD were the only investigative agency with jurisdiction in both these killings, and that's all I am able to say.
Yep,
this is true. And
it is.
It pretty much stopped with the Tippit thing. I mean, there were interviews after the fact that the FBI did with some of the witnesses, but again, not much. The Warren Commission talked to some of them as well, but it never really went anywhere. Like, nobody.
Oh, Rob, you cut out. You still there? I lost you, Rob. Can you guys hear me? You froze up. It says no connection. Uh-oh. Am I the only one online? Someone make a comment. Did you guys lose the whole show, or can you only see me? You're the host now. Okay. Apparently, I'm the host now. Okay. All right. I'll do my best while we get Rob to come back on. Okay. Comments. Let's see. Sally writes, "Why would the killer throw their wallet into the bushes?" The killer did not throw the wallet in the bushes. That's the thing. The wallet was turned in and claimed to have been thrown in the bushes. But we know that didn't happen, because who leaves their wallet behind after committing a murder? So we know that's not true. So if that was a conspirator turning Oswald's wallet in to frame him, he did a really bad job at saying, "Oh, he just threw it away," as he fled. Okay. And you guys can still hear me. Is that correct? You guys can still see me and hear me? There you go. Hey.
I'm back. My internet shit out.
I was the host for about 3 minutes, so.
Hey, I trust you. It's all good.
Could you hear me, though?
I could not.
All right.
You disappeared, and then I realized, oh, shit, no, I'm the one that's...
Let's see. Let me see. I'm just looking at some of the other...
Oh, yeah.
Questions.
Well, there may have been some way back that we missed. Who knows?
So anyway, yeah, J.D. Tippit's murder was completely cast aside. In fact, when he was... There wasn't even a 21 gun salute at his funeral. Did you know that?
No.
There was not a 21 gun salute, and there wasn't even a flag given to his widow, even though he was a veteran. There was no flag given to his widow on his funeral on Monday. And that shocks a lot of people when I tell them that. And they finally gave her one like 8 years ago or something like that. Like, oh, here, you better late than never. Here you go. And they did the flag. And
well, they didn't even have that monument up for a while, did they? They're at 10th and Patton.
Yeah, so they have a historical plaque at the Tippit scene, and there's 46 things wrong with it, so
Yeah.
not that much, but there's a lot of stuff. But uh, someone wrote, "I know Myers isn't your favorite source, but do you place any?" You want to pull it up on the screen?
Yeah. Let me scroll down here. There we go. This is our buddy Will, GPI deal.
All right. He says, "I know Myers isn't your favorite source, but do you place any merit in his claim the old boys told him what officer was visiting his side piece in a house that..." Okay, so yeah, so very, very obscure detail right there. Very obscure detail. Okay, so in Gerald Posner's book, Case Closed in 1993, and in Dale Myers' book in 1998/2013, supposedly there was an officer in one of those houses, um, close to 10th and Patton, having an affair with a lady in the neighborhood, and supposedly he saw Oswald, or the killer, flee, and who knows, maybe that could have been the second cop car that was getting the hell out of there, out of the driveway, that Doris Holand saw. Maybe that was. Maybe.
Yeah, because they would have had to back up the driveway back to the alley and then leave. Because Tippit was kind of blocking the driveway a little bit there where he was
Well,
at.
they couldn't have been in between the houses in the driveway because their structures there. But they could have been in the alley, like here's the driveway, like
Oh, in
here's
the back.
way back in the alley. Yeah, yeah. So maybe that's, but we can't prove that. And Gerald Posner and Dale Myers have the name of the officer, but they did not release it for some reason. If they do, maybe that'll clear some things up. Yeah, you see structures.
Yeah, there's no alley.
Huh? In the
There's
back.
Yeah, in the back.
So we're looking. Yeah. So
There's not like a driveway going down in between.
yeah. So her house is to the right, around the corner, on Patton, and I show this in my video with Jess Cannell on her channel. We go to to these locations, and I point out where the houses were and everything. So yeah, she could not. Doris Holen could not have seen the drive in between the house and the driveway, but she could have seen the alley. So
Yeah, because a lot of
if her story is credible,
a lot of those houses have changed since then.
yeah, there are only two houses in that on 10th Street in that area that are the exact same.
Yeah, I remember it was not a good part of town.
It's just in those two houses they've gutted the inside of it. Inside of them, obviously, it's only the outside of the house that's the same, so it's not really the same house.
Well, I know nobody said anything to us the first year we were there, but in the ensuing years, has anybody that lives there come out and said anything to you over the years?
I did find a witness who was the son of the Deutsch Motors of the Deutsch Motors Company, or the Harris Brothers Company. That was the lot that Ted Calloway worked at. Ted Calloway and Sam Ginyard, the owner, Mr. Harris, his son, was 13 years old at the time, and he was there with them, and they heard the shots, and he was behind Ted Calloway, 13-year-old kid. Third, so he saw Oswald, or the killer, whoever,
Yeah.
the killer, whoever. So he had the same experience that Calloway had, only he was just behind Calloway. And his name and his dad got him the hell out of there because he didn't want this 13-year-old kid to be, questioned by cops and all that stuff. So I interviewed him and on the scene, and he came to one of my Tippit gatherings on one of the anniversaries. He was our keynote speaker, which is weird because it's just a gathering. You know, he's our keynote speaker. So yeah, but you do you do you do hear a lot of little side stories in town. Like, oh yeah, I remember JD. He worked at Austin's Barbecue, and he used to help slice lemons there. And there's a woman who said I was a kid, and he didn't give. He saw that we were poor, and he didn't write us a t- write us give us a. He didn't give us a ticket. He just gave us a warning, and we thought that was very friendly of him. And that was Officer Tippit's nickname in the area, Officer Friendly. Officer Friendly. So
Yeah, David says, I think the Oswald person got out of the second cop car and killed Tippit, and Tippit was lured there, and that's why the second cop car fled.
what do you mean by the Oswald person? What does that mean?
Whoever shot Tippit got out of the second cop car, and
Well,
then the cop car took off, and the dude had to flee on foot.
she couldn't have seen any cop car in between those two houses. As I said, at best she could have seen the
In the
car
alley, maybe.
leaving the crime scene
Yeah.
through the back alley, but she couldn't see in between the houses. She was on Patton Street. She wasn't on 10th Street.
Yeah.
So, but that's
Spitballing a possible scenario there.
well, that's sort of what the Roscoe White story is. And real quickly, the Roscoe White story is that Roscoe White was working for the CIA. He was the grassy knoll gunman. He rendezvoused with J.D. Tippit, and they picked up Oswald from the rooming house, which would explain Early and Roberts seeing the cop car drive by the house with the two cops in it. And they said Roscoe said that they picked Oswald up, and something went wrong, and Oswald left the car and fled the car. And J.D. Tippit said to Roscoe, "Rock, I'm gonna have to turn you in. We're gonna have to go downtown to figure this out." And Roscoe did not have that happen, so that's why he killed J.D. Tippit. And it's possible that Oswald left the car and that they were looking for Oswald. That's why Tippit supposedly stopped. That could be the reason why Tippit stopped James Andrews and looked in his back seat or something like that. It's just a possibility.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. And so, Tippit's driving around looking for Oswald possibly, and then Roscoe's like walking up and down the alleys or walking down the streets, and that's why he was walking, and then they met. And then Tippit says, "I'm going to take you in." He gets out, and then Roscoe shoots him and then runs away. Maybe. We don't know.
Yeah, it's all over the place. As with anything else in this case, right? I mean,
This is what Roscoe White wrote in his diary, which was found by his son in 1982.
okay. Before it was stolen by the FBI.
Yeah. So Roscoe wrote in his diary, quote, and this is Lebanon, which is he says, Lebanon, 6th floor, so the shooter in the 6th floor, Saul, records building, so the shooter in the records building, Mandarin, which is Roscoe White's code name, stockade fence. This is shots fired from upper buildings for diversion. Shots fired, looks as if target was hit, and this is in Dealey Plaza for those who are listening. Shots fired, looks as if target was hit. Shot from fence, definite hit. Man on other side of the fence in the way. That would be Gordon Arnold. Shots again from upper buildings, no hit. Target open, fired, definite hit. Gun retrieved by man to the side, took to railroad area. So that's the second man on the grassy knoll that Lee Bowers and supposedly saw hand the rifle to the other person, supposedly throw it in the trunk of the car,
Yeah.
And then Roscoe White writes, he continues on and says he, quote, whirled over the fence, took man down to protect myself. Like, is that Gordon Arnold when he kicks him and takes his film away? Maybe, I don't know. Drove to Oak Cliff, met officer. Told officer not to drive by house. Something was at this point wrong. Forced to take out officer at 10th and Patton. Not going as planned. Backtracked to car. Drove back to the area of takeout to locate other passenger. That would be Oswald. Failed to transport subject to Redbird Airfield. That would be Oswald. Realized what a mistake I had made. Hope it is all over. Back to DPD awaiting information. So, if we're to believe Ricky White and Roscoe, his father, Roscoe White, he's the only one who confessed to killing Kennedy and J.D. Tippit in his diary right here. So it's pretty heavy stuff. And as I say, Larry Harris, he believed this. And I mean, there's not a lot, just like with Larry Crawford, there's not a lot of information to go on there. I mean, I can accept it, but can I prove it? No.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing with Crayford is, I think he's responsible for a lot of these Oswald sightings with Ruby, for sure.
Who?
Crayford.
Oh, I don't know.
When people say they saw Ruby with Oswald, I'm like in the Lucas B&B restaurant. I mean, we know from what Jack Ruby said and Crayford that he was at the restaurant, but the waitress swore up and down Ruby was there eating with Oswald.
Yep.
But again, who knows? Oswald's being impersonated all over the place, from even in Mexico to Dallas, and
it's pretty hard, especially these days, to say that Oswald was not. But author, rest in peace, researcher David Lifton, who was one of my mentors, he believed that there were no Oswald doubles or lookalikes. He thinks Oswald actually did all those things. He thinks Oswald test drove the car. He thinks Oswald bought the Pico Brittle. He thinks Oswald went and got a gun part, was at the rifle range, saying I'm going to kill Kennedy. Because, yeah, so I was like, that's interesting. So he thinks Oswald actually really did do all those things, but that he was being a fake. He was being a provocateur. He was what's the word I'm looking for? He was double agent.
Does he think that Oswald was doing this all on his own, or was he being told to do this stuff?
Well, that's kind of a tricky one because he died before his Oswald book came out, but hopefully that will be released.
The final charade.
Yeah, I know a couple. I know someone or one or two people who have the manuscript, and there's a good book by some guy who got to know him the last 5 years of his life, and he apparently recorded a bunch of their conversations and transcribed them and put them into a book that you can buy on Amazon. It's called Conversations with David Lifton. You can buy that. So if Final Charade, the book, never comes out, then at least we have that book because it's like, condensed version of it.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Roscoe White's father. I'm just looking at the questions, right? Is there independent evidence that White and Tippit knew each other? No. No, there's not. Roscoe White did not join the academy until December. He was what you call a apprentice police officer.
Yeah, in the photography department, like Sally says here, allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know Armstrong has some wild ass theories about everything, frankly, but he's done a lot of good research. He's accumulated a lot of good documents, and
I'm not really sure about all the stuff he's written in the past couple of years, but his book Harvey and Lee is pretty solid. Pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, the research is solid. I'm just not convinced of the premise, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, he thinks like that there were two Oswalds like raised from birth by the CIA and all that stuff. So
yeah.
But everyone agree. Yeah, and he thinks that an Oswald lookalike, that the Oswald lookalike shot J.D. Tippit. I do not think that it was an Oswald lookalike who shot Tippit based on the eyewitness descriptions of the killer. They don't match. And
He shot Tippit and Harvey took the fall.
yeah. I wonder how that feels because it's like no one on either side but wholeheartedly buys John Armstrong's theories. They just believe some of his stuff. I believe this, but I don't believe that. You know.
So one thing that I did see, I came across,
It must be hard for no one to fully buy your conclusion.
Yeah, David brings it up. Did Roscoe White work at Jagger's Child Stovall? I think Greg Lowry said that.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, they both are ex-Marines. Both are with the same Japanese air base. Yeah, and there's even a supposed photo of them together. And they're like, "Oh, that's uh, Roscoe behind Oswald," and it's like, we can't tell who that is. You know, we can't tell who that is.
Yeah, there's a lot of smoke there, with the bump on his arm and the way he's standing in some photo.
Yeah,
And being a photographer.
yeah. It is true that Roscoe White took home, as did a bunch of the other cops. They took home souvenirs, pieces of evidence, and what Roscoe White and another cop had was the third backyard photo of Oswald.
Yeah.
So people are saying, and when his son Ricky opened up his footlocker and found the diary and all of his dad's possessions, all that stuff he had, photos of Tippit and Oswald, and people are like, "Oh, that proves that he knew them." It's like, no, it proves that he was interested in the case, and he had copies of Tippit. He worked on the force, so he had access to take souvenirs home. I mean, and even if he didn't do that, those are very common photos that he had in his possession. The only one that wasn't common was the third backyard photo that his widow gave to the House Assassinations Committee in the 70s, and which is online now.
Yeah, it's interesting that the Dallas police did not turn over all their evidence to the FBI, and they held some shit back,
And they took some stuff home as souvenirs.
Yeah.
Pull up that last comment about his.
Sure. Since the original diary was either stolen or lost, the diary we have is from his son's memory or Geneva's. His wife Geneva faked a copy of Roscoe's diary as well.
Okay, so here's what happened there. Ricky White and his wife Tricia have memorized the diary entry, which a lot of people don't realize. I bring that up, and people are like, "What? We know exactly what Roscoe wrote in his diary." It's like, because his son Ricky and his wife memorized it. They read it over and over and over from 1982 to 1988 or something like that, and they both independently recalled from memory exactly what it says. So we don't have the diary because it was stolen by the FBI, but we have the memorization. But the reason why the Roscoe White story crashed and burned in 1991 or something like that was because Geneva, Roscoe's widow, said, "Oh, I have this other diary right here," and she faked it. And the news news media thought she was.
They ate her alive over it. Yeah.
They thought she was admitting to faking the original diary. No. It's like, no. That original diary was Roscoe's. It was stolen, and then later Geneva said, "Oh, I have another one." So the media didn't understand that. That's why this whole thing has crashed and burned. That's why there was never.
There's some crazy stuff coming out.
I got confused. Even researcher Dave Perry confused that whenever I interviewed him on Roscoe White. He said, "Oh, she was caught faking diary entries," and I said, "No, Dave. She created another diary. The original is totally separate from." And he was just like silence. I don't think he even realized that. He's the big expert on Roscoe White, so. So yeah, And Ricky White says, my mother faked that diary. I don't know why she did that, but she shot us all in the foot. She shot our credibility. But he says, but the truth is that I'm telling the truth. My dad left this diary behind where he says that he killed Kennedy in Tippit.
Yeah.
And I memorized it, and it was stolen by the FBI.
Wow. All right, man. I think we're coming up here on almost 2 hours, dude. It flew
Well,
by.
for you, I joined about 10 minutes in. So
All good. Well, look, man, I appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us and talking some Tippit. I've been wanting to get you on here for a while, and I'm glad to finally get you on here. And
yeah, maybe we can do it again because there's just so much to talk about. I mean, I could literally go on for 2 hours without repeating myself. It's just there's just so much. I realized that pretty recent, like last year as well. It's like just like with the Kennedy assassination, this Tippit thing, it never ends either. Even though it was a smaller crime in a smaller area with less witnesses, just like with the Kennedy assassination, for some reason it never ends. There's always something else, something new.
Yeah, we'll have to get you back on and maybe get into some of the medical stuff as well, because I'm not too hip on a lot of it, and
I got you.
I get confused with a lot of it as well. So we can definitely do that in the future. But man, I appreciate you coming on and hanging out with me. And
thanks for inviting me.
I know our folks in the chat loved it. And folks, that's going to do it for this evening. Matt, hang out with me here for a second while Dean Andrews sings us out of here. And we'll see you, I guess, on next Wednesday, members only, where I kind of do a part 2 to this, a little follow-up. And until then, for Matt Douthit, remember, in the description of this video is a link to his YouTube page. Make sure you check it out. Go give him a follow and check out his content. He does good work. And if you're into Facebook and Facebook groups, find it. Was it JD Tippit Searching for the Truth?
That's it. That's where I'm on every day. Yeah, I do have a JFK group. It's called JFK Nothing But the Truth. But that's as you said in the beginning, those JFK groups, they're a real mess. But if you want to see me post daily on the Tippit murder, go to my Facebook group, JD Tippit Searching for the Truth. That's the place to go to reach me.
If you want to get to Matt, that's how you get him. All right, folks. Dino, get your fat ass in here.
He dare not talk for the record, but he said, "Come to Bourbon Street and I'll show you what I think of the case."
There we add that. Put him down in Joe's spot. There we go.
Nice.
The greatest lies are told in the name of truth. The greatest crimes are committed in the name of justice. The quotation is Jim Garrison's. It could be used for him or against him in this strange case. Good night.
It is Mardi Gras time. Stay away
from you're right. It is Mardi Gras. Unfortunately, they never recovered after. Are we still live right now?
Yeah. For another hot second.
Yeah, I went to New Orleans. I went